G'day everyone, and welcome to another Tempest video. So today you'll notice there's an announcement out, and this announcement is regarding the prospectivity at the Remorse Target. This one's been a while coming, as we've been waiting on some things, and also quite a bit of work went into this as well. It's a more lengthy announcement, and it's moderately technical also, certainly more than recent announcements. That means there's a fair bit to get through, so let's get straight into it. Up here is the usual dot points and the summary. Actually, before going more on the announcement, by popular demand, I want to add something that's not in the announcement. And a few people have asked me about this one lately, but Joel on the Investor Hub, he got in there first, so quick shout out to him. It's about the naming of the targets, and the eastern side of the Yalgoo project is named after Metallica's songs, and remorse comes from the song No Remorse. So, back into it. Also by popular demand, we had a number of parties asking for a bit more detail on the Remorse Target and why it looks so good to us. Internally, inside myself, normally I try to stay pretty neutral when it comes to exploration targets, and to be honest, this one is just so bloody compelling, and parts of that come from how it unfolded over time, pun intended. So the announcement tries to put it as succinctly as we could, but I'm going to go through it a little bit as well. First thing is the geochemistry. An important point to remember is that just about all this ground has never been explored before, at all. So while we were drilling at Clover and the Orion target a couple of years ago, we had a team collecting wide-spaced regional geochemistry samples over pretty much the whole project, and certainly the eastern part of the project anyway. And we didn't think much of it at the time because that wasn't our priority. But one day we got the team to plot the data up and check that everything was okay, and suddenly this giant copper zinc anomaly popped out of nowhere. We were a bit uncertain about it at the time, and we checked it very, very thoroughly, and it's definitely legit. So that got us a little bit excited, as you can imagine, and we then started looking closer, and particularly at the geology that we'd picked up in the field, and also from the interpretations from the magnetics, which is a common way of interpreting the geology on a large scale. And we had done a special magnetic model about 2 years earlier, and on this model you can see these giant structures or faults, and they just popped out as being exactly the kind of thing we want to look for to find ore bodies. And there's this one big sucker that goes right down the middle of Remorse, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you want to be looking for when you're looking for ore bodies. So this is starting to have all the hallmarks of a volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit. It's got beautiful geochem, sticks out on the magnetics, and it's got a giant structure going through the middle of it that could be the feeder zone. And you can see we mentioned that a little bit in the announcement here. If we go down a little bit further here, you see we're talking about electromagnetics. So that's one great tool for proving where VMS are. So in the middle of 2023, we flew a big electromagnetic survey across half of the Yalgoo project, and you can see my video where I'm talking about that up here. This survey also went over the Remorse area, and amongst all the insane amount of data that we got out of that, there were a number of conductors and resistors that popped out right over the top of our 4.5 kilometre copper zinc geochemistry anomaly. So that's just another layer of compelling evidence that we've got on that. So at this point, I need to warn everyone that I'm definitely not a geophysicist. And therefore, I'm going to explain the following in a simplified way that hopefully both you and I can understand. And then in the future, if need be, I can refer to much greater experts than me to explain things in more detail. One of the things that stood out about this anomaly when we did the survey was that the electromagnetic signal, when it was pulsed into the target area, the decay or the speed that the signal drops off was quite sharp, and that apparently has all the hallmarks of sulfide mineralization. This is actually pretty complex stuff, and we're still doing more work on this even today, modeling and remodeling to try and find the optimal way to look at it. And that gets us to where we were not that long ago. So let's get into some of the more recent stuff. First of all, as you may recall, that I had a team up there not long ago doing some extra sampling. If I scroll down here, you can see this yellow box. Basically, when we did the previous surface sampling, we didn't own the tenement that is that little box there. Now we do, so we sampled it. And when we put all that data together, we can now see that the high-grade soil sampling, which is greater than 100 parts per million zinc and or greater than 150 parts per million copper, is now the best part of 5 kilometers long. What's super interesting is that this beautiful 50 ppm copper, or 75 ppm zinc halo, that's the light pink color there, that surrounds the whole thing, and it's getting a lot bigger. That makes the expanded drill program that we put together and the delays associated with that even more justified in our eyes, and we can't wait to put some holes into it. But wait, there's more. Whenever we take samples of any variety, we always run them through what's called a box scan unit, and this is located at the Galt Discovery Centre here in Perth. One of the tools on this box scan unit is called a ASD, or Analytical Spectral Device. What this does is shines infrared light into the rocks, or soils in this case, and it detects what minerals are there. And lo and behold, when we plotted all the data from the soil sampling, what do we find? Copper. Up here, you can see in the top left, there's these blue dots. They're azurite, which is an iconic blue copper mineral. And down here, we can see this light green dots. That's another iconic copper mineral, which is chrysocolla. Now, fascinatingly, we haven't seen almost no hint of copper in the surface, apart from in our geochemistry. So we think this is even more tight evidence that even though it's beyond human sight, that there is copper in the Remorse Target. And I think that's pretty cool. So this picture is actually plotted using the more conservative data set, and we think that this the dots on the screen here are probably much more widespread. One of the things about these ASD tools is that they're really good at picking up different types of clay minerals. Many non-geos may ask why that's important. Well, the thing about clay minerals is that they're often associated with areas that have had interesting geological stuff happen, like ore body formation. And when these interesting things happen, the rocks tend to get pretty hot. So the clays can act like a thermometer as to the different temperatures. And if we look at this picture here, and yes, I know it's a pretty busy diagram, so sorry about that. Sorry, not sorry. But a simple explanation for that is that we think we can actually see zonations of where the rocks were different temperatures in the past. And that means that we can know where we are in the system better and even potentially focus our efforts into getting us better results. So I know I nerded out there a fair bit, so sorry, not sorry for that also. But that's at least in part what we're all about here at Tempest, and hopefully it can yield some results in the near future. Speaking of that, I'm sure that's what many people are watching to find out when the big truck-mounted circular hole-punching truth detector is going to start, and that's down here on the next page. The earthworks are essentially done for the drill pads. A bit more work has to be done on some tracks, but that's dependent on us having some more sun. And for those of you that live in WA, you'll know that we got absolutely pasted over the weekend, had at least half an inch of rain, not helping. But we are going to go up there tomorrow and check again and hopefully finish that off very soon. And then we're just waiting on the drill contractor to arrive, and They've assured us that that's not very far away, and then we're going to be into it. Well, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the announcement and this video. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube below and check out our Investor Hub for all the latest news. I look forward to speaking to you about drilling starting in the near future and also all the other things that we've got coming up in the next few weeks. But until then,